1 second, guys. Fixing my, give me a second, Instagram. Alright. Can you guys see? Yeah. Alright. Big brush this time. Alright, let's see. Definitely got to brighten some areas up. It's not the right one. Hey, what's up? Morning. I definitely want to brighten up this side right here. Yeah, bro. I'm doing a bigger one. What's up, Harmon? What's up? Man, I'm okay, you know? Finally got some time to come paint. How's work, man? Sorry to hear that, man. You gotta take some time for yourself, dude. Rest up. Do fun things. What's up, Twitch? You guys are an okay spot. I think you guys are okay. India pub. Hey, how's it going? I'm okay. Finally got some time to paint, you know? I'm gonna be really busy painting this summer. Let's see. That white just, oh man, kind of out of place. Let's tone that down. I was trying to get rid of all those initial grid marks I had. And Harmon, it's okay, man. Sometimes it's okay to ask for money. Okay, let's see what we need to do. I want to get that white out of there. It doesn't fit too well. At least tone it down, you know? Well, sometimes. You know, I work for like sometimes they like up to 8 hours per stream, so standing for that long can it can be a little painful. You know, I start getting like backaches and stuff. It's better if I just sit. That way I don't, you know, I don't have to change much up. If I stand the entire time, there's always like, oh man, I think I need to sit down. Then I need to shift the whole station down, and I need to change the setup. Usually while I'm standing, I don't usually stream. Hey, what's up, Sony? Thank you. What I want to do now is, I brightened out this side. I want to start working on this side and the face, you know. You guys can see this side's pretty much in shadow. I want to start, you guys can see over here, there's some red reflected light that I need to bring out on this side. So I need to mix that up. I'm going to start the mixture right here. Just going to take this bright red I have, this vermilion, some yellow ochre. You guys can see that's a strong, very strong tone. It's even stronger than that. So I'm going to make sure I tone it down using some brown. So I can go in here with that red. Kind of start bringing out that reflected shadow. I can also kind of pinpoint where those glasses are. They need to be lower. I think this nostril needs to be coming back in. There's something that's off. That nose is a little bit too short. I choose people that are close to me, especially if it's going to be a big painting like this. This is my grandma. This is my grandmother. She passed away a few months ago, and I knew that if I chose something this big, I could carry out till the finish. Usually if I choose something that I'm not that interested in or it's not that meaningful, I have a hard time finishing the painting. And this is like one of those really meaningful paintings. It's not just like a cartoon or something, you know? Nothing against fan art. I love fan art. I make a ton of fan art, but I think that those nostrils need to come in over here. Some reflected lights. Boom. I need to pinpoint where that glasses would come up to, out to. Hey, Mark. It's okay. I know, it's been a strange time, but I think this helps me kind of work through things. How are you, Margo? It's been a while. Is this kind of like watching me paint at the library? You know, it took me so long to set it up though. Uh, I had to create my own system and everything. But library was okay. People still find me. They're like, and it's strange. Like I moved back to Nova, but I still find people that I met through the library, and they ask me for like commissions and stuff. It's kind of interesting. That was my spot, man. You are too. I don't know where you are these days, but man, that was awesome. Have you been back? The library looks amazing. They made so many changes. And Shubham, you know, people say God gifted or talented or whatever. I honestly don't believe in that stuff. I just see all the years of painting and stuff. You know, it took a long time to get here. It's not just like I started and I was able to paint. You know, it took a while, and I'm still learning. Like I'm just like, man, I need to get better at this or that or whatever. I need to lower this nostril over here. Yeah, this nostril is just... The nose right here is a little bit too high. And too wide at that middle part. I miss it. I miss RVA, man. It feels like... When I get back, though, it feels like I'm a ghost. So much has changed. Nice, I like all that stuff right there. It's a gift of hard work. I guess in that way, it's a gift of knowing when to work hard, you know? Just being able to get up and like set everything up and go for hours is, I think that's the real gift. It's like that sense of drive. Let's see. That nose, though. There's something off in this area. Maybe I need to pull that nose down. Just a little bit. Down and in. That way it'll look longer. Because this right here is way too short. What's happening? Let's say that nostril starts down here. This is still too short. Do I need to bring it up? But I don't want to cut off some of the brow muscles up there. So it needs to shift down. Maybe down and in. And those lips need to be pulled a little bit closer together. So the mouth area looks a little bit wider. Yeah, I was born in India. And honestly, if I just go up here, I can kind of just map out where the lights, in a subtle way, where the lights might come. And then I'll know what to fix. It seems like this This area is might be a little bit too big. Throwing off the proportions. Let's see. Let's try to push this side of nostril in. Yeah, this nostril's too high. Hold on, guys. I gotta grab a snack. One second. I need to mix up a dark so I can redefine some of those outlines. Just gonna go in here. This nostril needs to be lowered. Lowered and closed in. Making it look too wide right there. That means this side needs to be also pulled in.
No, she said, beginning to cry again. Don't make me come over there and collect you, Peppy. You're going to be one sorry little girl if I have to do that. Come to me! If he was still dyeing his hair. Never dyed it, Jonesy said in an ill-tempered way. He was vain of his Met a whore down at Ma Courtney's who said what grows around your pecker is just as white as snow, the fellow said. She was a liar, Jonesy replied. Drop your pants and let's us see, said a lumberman named Falkland, with the axe out of his head. Tinker started to get up again, and Hero slung the axe sideways, burying it in his going to be we knew. But it didn't seem to matter. It was like politics anyway. Yeah, like that. Like town business. Best let people who understand politics take care of that, and people who understand town business take care of that. Such things be best done if working men don't mix in. Are you really talking about fate and just afraid to come out and say so? I asked suddenly. The question was simply jerked out of me. I certainly did not expect Thorogood, who was old and slow and unlettered, to answer it. But he did, with no surprise at all. Ah, he said. Mayhap I am. While the men at the bar went on talking about the weather, Claude Hero went on cutting. Stugly Grenier had finally managed to clear his clutch pistol. The axe was descending for another chop at Eddie King, who was by then in pieces. The bullet Grenier fired struck the head of the axe and ricocheted off with a spark and a whine. El Kutuk got to his feet and started backing away. He was still holding the deck he had been dealing from. Cards were fluttering off the bottom and onto the floor. Claude came after him. El Kutuk held out his hands. Stugly Grenier got off another round, which didn't come within 10 feet of Hero. Stop, Claude, El Kutuk said. Thorogood said it appeared like Kutuk was trying to smile. I wasn't with them. I didn't mix in at all. Hero only growled. I was in Millinocket, El Kutuk said, his voice starting to rise toward a scream. I was in Millinocket. I swear it on my mother's name. Ask anybody if you don't believe me. Claude raised the dripping axe, and El Kutuk sprayed the rest of the cards into his face. The axe came down, whistling. El Kutuk ducked. The axe head buried itself in the planking that formed the Silver Dollar's back wall. El Kutuk tried to run. Claude hauled the axe out of the wall and poked it between his ankles. El Kutuk went sprawling. Stugly Grenier shot at Hero again, this time having a bit more luck. He had been aiming at the crazed lumberman's head. The bullet struck home in the fleshy part of Hero's thigh. Meantime, El Kutuk was crawling busily toward the door with his hair hanging in his face. Hero swung the axe again, snarling and gibbering, and a moment later Kutuk's severed head was rolling across the sawdust-strewn floor. The tongue popped bizarrely out between the teeth. It rolled to a stop by the booted foot of a lumberman named Varney, who had spent most of the day in the Dollar and who, by then, was so exquisitely slopped that he didn't know if he was on land or at sea. He kicked the head away without looking down to see what it was, and hollered for Jonesy to run him down another beer. El Kutuk crawled another 3 feet, blood spraying from his neck in a high-tension jet, before he realized he was dead and collapsed. That left Stugly. Hero turned on him, but Stugly had run into the outhouse and locked the door. Hero chopped his way in, hollering and blabbering and raving, slobber falling from his jaws. When he got in, Stugly was gone, although the cold, leaky little room was windowless. Hero stood there for a moment, head lowered, powerful arms slimed and splattered with blood, and then, with a roar, he flipped up the lid of the three-holer. He was just in time to see Stugly's boots disappearing under the ragged board skirting of the outhouse wall. Stugly Grenier ran screaming down Exchange Street in the rain, beshitted from top to toe, crying that he was being murdered. He survived the cutting party in the Silver Dollar. He was the only one who did. But after 3 months of listening to jokes about his method of escape, he quitted the Derry area forever. Hero stepped out of the toilet and stood in front of it like a bull after a charge. Head down, his axe held in front of him. He was puffing and blowing and covered with gore from head to foot. Shut the door, Claude. That shitpot stinks to high heaven, Thorogood said. Claude dropped his axe on the floor and did as he had been asked. He walked over to the card-strewn table where his victims had been sitting, kicking one of Eddie King's severed legs out of his way. Then he simply sat down and put his head in his arms. The drinking and conversation at the bar went on. 5 minutes later, more men began to pile in, 3 or 4 sheriff's deputies among them. The one in charge was Lal Machen's father, and when he saw the mess, he had a heart attack and had to be taken away to Doc Schratt's office. Claude Herault was led away. He was docile when they took him, more asleep than awake. That night, the bars all up and down Exchange and Baker Streets boomed and hollered with news of the slaughter. A righteous, drunken sort of fury began to build up, and when the bars closed, better than 70 men headed downtown toward the jail and the courthouse. They had torches and lanterns. Some were carrying guns, some had axes, some had peaveys. The county sheriff wasn't due from Bangor until the noon stage the next day, so he wasn't there, and Goose Machen was laid up in Dr. Schratt's infirmary with his heart attack. The 2 deputies who were sitting in the office playing cribbage heard the mob coming and got out of there fast. The drunks broke in and dragged Claude Herault out of his cell. He didn't protest much. He seemed dazed, vacant. They carried him on their shoulders like a football hero. Down to Canal Street they carried him, and there they lynched him from an old elm that overhung the canal. He was so far gone that he didn't kick but twice, Egbert Thorogood said. It was, so far as the town records show, the only lynching to ever take place in this part of Maine. And almost, needless to say, it was not reported in the Derry News. Many of those who had gone on drinking unconcernedly while Herault went about his business in the Silver Dollar were in the necktie party that strung him up. By midnight, their mood had changed. I asked Thorogood my final question. Had he seen anyone he didn't know during that day's violence? Someone who struck him as strange, out of place, funny, even clownish. Someone who would have been drinking at the bar that afternoon, someone who had maybe turned into one of the rabble-rousers that night as the drinking went on and the talk turned to lynching. Mayhap there was, Thorogood replied. He was tired by then, drooping, ready for his afternoon nap. It were a long time ago, mister. Long and long. But you remember something, I said. I remember thinking that there must be a county fair up Bangor way, Thorogood said. I was having a beer in the Bloody Bucket that night. The bucket was about 6 doors from the Silver Dollar. There's a fella in there. Comical sort of fella. Doing flips and rollovers, juggling glasses, tricks. Put 4 dimes on his forehead and they'd stay right there, comical, you know. His bony chin had sunk into his chest again. He was going to sleep right in front of me. Spittle began to bubble at the corners of his mouth, which had as many tucks and wrinkles as a lady's change purse. Seen him a few now and then since, Thorogood said. Figure maybe he had such a good time that night that he decided to stick around. Yeah, he's been around a long time, I said. His only response was a weak snore. Thorogood had gone to sleep in his chair by the window, with his medicines and nostrums lined up beside him on the sill, soldiers of old age at muster. I turned off my tape recorder and just sat looking at him for a moment, this strange time traveler from the year 1890 or so, who remembered when there were no cars, no electric lights, no airplanes, no state of Arizona. Pennywise had been there, guiding them down the path toward another gaudy sacrifice. Just one more in Derry's long history of gaudy sacrifices. That one, in September of 1905, ushered in a heightened period of terror that would include the Eastertide explosion of the Kitchener Ironworks the following year. This raises some interesting, and, for all I know, vitally important questions. What does it really eat, for instance? I know that some of the children have been partially eaten. They show bite marks, at least. But perhaps it is we who drive it to do that. Certainly we have all been taught since earliest childhood that what the monster does when it catches you in the deep wood is eat you. That is perhaps the worst thing we can conceive. But it's really faith that monsters live on, isn't it? I am led irresistibly to this conclusion. Food may be life, but the source of power is faith, not food. And who is more capable of a total act of faith than a child? But there's a problem. Kids grow up. In the church, power is perpetuated and renewed by periodic ritualistic acts. In Derry, power seems to be perpetuated and renewed by periodic ritualistic acts too. Can it be that it protects itself by the simple fact that, as the children grow into adults, they become either incapable of faith or crippled by a sort of spiritual and imaginative arthritis? Yes, I think that's the secret here. And if I make the calls, how much will they remember? How much will they believe? Enough to end this horror once and for all, or only enough to get them killed? They are being called, I know that much. Each murder in this new cycle has been a call. We almost killed it twice, and in the end, we drove it deep in its warren of tunnels and stinking rooms under the city. But I think it knows another secret. Although it may be immortal, or almost so, we are not. It had only to wait until the act of faith, which made us potential monster killers as well as sources of power, had become impossible. 27 years. Perhaps a period of sleep for it, as short and refreshing as an afternoon nap would be for us. And when it awakes, it is the same. But a third of our lives has gone by. Our perspectives have narrowed. Our faith in the magic, which makes magic possible, has worn off like the shine on a new pair of shoes after a hard day's walking. Why call us back? Why not just let us die? Because we nearly killed it. Because we frightened it, I think. Because it wants revenge. And now that we no longer believe in Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, Hansel and Gretel, or the troll under the bridge, it is ready for us. Come on back, it says. Come on back. Let's finish our business in Derry. Bring your jacks and your marbles and your yo-yos. We'll play. Come on back, and we'll see if you remember the simplest thing of all. How it is to be children, secure in belief and thus afraid of the dark. On that one, at least, I score 1,000%. I'm frightened. So goddamn frightened. Part 5. The Ritual of Chud. It is not to be done. The seepage has rotted out the curtain. The mesh is decayed. Loosen the flesh from the machine, build no more bridges. Through what air will you fly to span the continents? Let the words fall any way at all, that they may hit love aslant. It will be a rare visitation. They want to rescue too much. The flood has done its work. William Carlos Williams, Patterson. Look and remember. Look upon this land far, far across the factories and the grass. Surely there, surely they will let you pass. Speak then and ask the forest and the loam. What do you hear? What does the land command? The earth is taken. This is not your home. Carl Shapiro, Travelogue for Exiles. Chapter 19. In the Watches of the Night. 1. The Derry Public Library, 1:15 a.m. When Ben Hanscom finished the story of the Silver Slugs, they wanted to talk, but Mike told them he wanted them all to get some sleep. You've had enough for now, he said. But Mike was the one who looked as if he had had enough. His face was tired and drawn, and Beverly thought he looked physically ill. But we're not done, Eddie said. What about the rest of it? I still don't remember. Mike's right, Bill said. Either we'll remember or we won't. I think we will. We've remembered all that we need to. Maybe all that's good for us, Richie suggested. Mike nodded. We'll meet tomorrow. Then he glanced at the clock. Later today, I mean. Here? Beverly asked. Mike shook his head slowly. I suggest we meet on Kansas Street, where Bill used to hide his bike. We're going down into the Barrens, Eddie said, and suddenly shivered. Mike nodded again. There was a moment of quiet while they looked around at each other. Then Bill got to his feet and the others rose with him. I want you all to be careful for the rest of the night, Mike said. It's been here. It can be wherever you are. But this meeting has made me feel better. He looked at Bill. I'd say it still can be done. Wouldn't you, Bill? Bill nodded slowly. Yes, I think it still can be done. It will know that too, Mike said. And it will do whatever it can to slug the odds in its favor. What do we do if it shows up? Richie asked. Hold our noses, shut our eyes, turn around 3 times and think good thoughts, puff some magic dust in its face, sing old Elvis Presley songs? What? Mike shook his head. If I could tell you that, there would be no problem, would there? All I know is that there's another force, at least there was when we were kids, that wanted us to stay alive and do the job. Maybe it's still there. He shrugged. It was a weary gesture. I thought 2, maybe as many as 3 of you would be gone by the time we started our meeting tonight, missing or dead. Just seeing you turn up gave me reason to hope. Richie looked at his watch. 1:15. How the time flies when you're having fun, right, Haystack? Beep, beep, Richie, Ben said, and smiled wanly. You want to walk back to the townhouse with me, Beverly? Bill asked. All right. She was putting on her coat. The library seemed very silent now, shadowy, frightening. Bill felt the last 2 days catching up with him, all at once, piling up on his back. If it had just been weariness, that would have been okay, but it was more. Feeling that he was cracking up, dreaming, having delusions of paranoia, a sensation of being watched. Maybe I'm really not here at all, he thought. Maybe I'm in Dr. Seward's lunatic asylum with the Count's crumbling townhouse next door and Renfield just across the hall, him with his flies and me with my monsters, both of us sure the party is really going on and dressed to the nines for it, not in tuxedos but in straight waistcoats. What about you, Richie? Richie shook his head. I'm going to let Haystack and Kasprack lead me home, he said. Right, fellers? Sure, Ben said. He looked briefly at Beverly, who was standing close to Bill and felt a pain he had almost forgotten. A new memory trembled, almost within his grasp, then floated away. What about you, Mike? Bill asked. Want to walk with Bev and me? Mike shook his head. I've got to... That was when Beverly screamed. A high-pitched sound in the stillness. The vaulted dome overhead picked it up, and the echoes were like the laughter of banshees flying and flapping around them. Bill turned toward her. Richie dropped his sport coat as he was taking it off the back of his chair. There was a crash of glass as Eddie's arms swept an empty gin bottle onto the floor. Beverly was backing away from them, her hands held out, her face as white as good bond paper. Her eyes, deep in dusky purple sockets, bulged. My hands! She screamed. My hands! What? Bill began, and then he saw the blood dripping slowly between her shaking fingers. He started forward and felt sudden lines of painful warmth across his own hands. The pain was not sharp. It was more like the pain one sometimes feels in an old healed wound. The old scars on his palm, the ones which had reappeared in England, had broken open and were bleeding. He looked sideways and saw Eddie Kasprack peering stupidly down at his own hands. They were also bleeding. So were Mike's, and Richie's, and Ben's. We're in it to the end, aren't we? Beverly said. She had begun to cry. The sound was also magnified in the library's still emptiness. The building itself seemed to be weeping with her. Bill thought that if he had to listen to that sound for long, he would go mad. God help us. We're in it to the end, she sobbed, and a runner of snot depended from one of her nostrils. She wiped it off with the back of one shaking hand, and more blood dripped on the floor. Quick, Bill said, and seized Eddie's hand. What, quick? He held out his other hand, and after a moment Beverly took it. She was still crying. Yes, Mike said. He looked dazed, almost drugged. Yes, that's right, isn't it? It's starting again, isn't it, Bill? It's all starting to happen again. Yes, I think... Mike took Eddie's hand and Richie took Beverly's other hand. For a moment, Ben only looked at them, and then, like a man in a dream, he raised his bloody hands to either side and stepped between Mike and Richie. He grasped their hands. The circle closed. Ah, Chud. This is the ritual of Chud, and the turtle cannot help us. Bill tried to scream, but no sound came out. He saw Eddie's head tilt back, the cords on his neck standing out. Bev's hips bucked twice, fiercely, as if in an orgasm as short and sharp as the crack of a .22 pistol. Mike's mouth moved strangely, seeming to laugh and grimace at the same time. In the silence of the library, doors banged open and shut, the sound rolling like bowling balls. In the periodicals room, magazines flew in a windless hurricane. In Carol Danner's office, the library's IBM typewriter whirred into life and typed, "He thrusts, his fists against the posts and still insists he sees the ghosts. He thrusts his fists against the..." The type ball jammed. The typewriter sizzled and uttered a thick electronic belch as everything inside overloaded. In stack 2, the shelf of occult books suddenly tipped over, spilling Edgar Cayce, Nostradamus, Charles Fort, and the Apocrypha everywhere. Bill felt an exalting sense of power. He was dimly aware that he had an erection, and that every hair on his head was standing up straight. The sense of force in the completed circle was incredible. All the doors in the library slammed shut in unison. The grandfather clock behind the checkout desk chimed once. Then it was gone, as if someone had flicked off a switch. They dropped their hands, looking at each other, dazed. No one said anything. As the sense of power ebbed, Bill felt a terrible sense of doom creep over him. He looked at their white, strained faces, and then down at his hands. Blood was smeared there, but the wounds, which Stan Uris had made with a jagged piece of Coke bottle in August 1958, had closed up again, leaving only crooked white lines like knotted twine. He thought, that was the last time the 7 of us were together. The day Stan made those cuts in the Barrens. Stan's not here, he's dead. And this is the last time the 6 of us are going to be together. I know it. I feel it. Beverly was pressed against him, trembling. Bill put an arm around her. They all looked at him, their eyes huge and bright in the dimness. The long table where they had sat littered with empty bottles, glasses, and overflowing ashtrays, a little island of light. That's enough, Bill said huskily. Enough entertainment for one evening. We'll save the ballroom dancing for another time. I remembered, Beverly said. She looked up at Bill, her eyes huge, her pale cheeks wet. I remembered everything. My father finding out about you guys, running, Bowers and Chris and Huggins, how I ran the tunnel, the birds, it. I remember everything. Yeah, Richie said. I do too. Eddie nodded. The pumping station, Bill said. And how Eddie... Go back now, Mike said. Get some rest. It's late. Walk with us, Mike, Beverly said. No, I have to lock up. And I have to write a few things down. The minutes of the meeting, if you like. I won't be long. Go ahead. They moved toward the door, not talking much. Bill and Beverly were together, Eddie, Richie, and Ben behind them. Bill held the door for her, and she murmured thanks. As she went out onto the wide granite steps, Bill thought how young she looked, how vulnerable. He was dismally aware that he might be falling in love with her again. He tried to think of Audra, but Audra seemed far away. She would be sleeping in their house in Fleet now as the sun came up and the milkman began his rounds. Derry's sky had clouded over again, and a low ground fog lay across the empty street in thick runners. Farther up the street, the Derry Community House, narrow, tall, Victorian, brooded in blackness. Bill thought, and whatever walked in Community House walked alone. He had to stifle a wild cackle. Their footfalls seemed very loud. Beverly's hand touched his, and Bill took it gratefully. It started before we were ready, she said. Would we ever have been ready? You would have been, Big Bill. The touch of her hand was suddenly both wonderful and necessary. He wondered what it would be like to touch her breasts for the second time in his life. and suspected that before this long night was over he would know. Fuller now, mature, and his hand would find hair when he cupped the swelling of her mons veneris. He thought,
so I'll turning in my sheets, and once again I cannot sleep. Look out the door and up the street. Look at the stars beneath my feet. Remember rights that I did wrong. So here I go, alone, alone. There is no place I cannot go. My mind is muddy bound. My heart is heavy, does it show? I lose the track that loses me. So here I go.
Alright, guys. I need to go eat some dinner. I'll see you guys.
Are they calling for our last dance?